Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Lunchtime Hour with Jose and myself, episode 20. Big milestone, big milestone.
What's going on, Neil? What's going on to everybody watching? Appreciate you guys joining us again during another lunchtime episode. Neil, every time we do another one, it's pretty cool that we're being consistent here. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, episode 20. Before you know it, we're at episode 50, then maybe 100, who knows? And guess what? Nvidia is still going to be $115 and AMD $100.
I don't like that energy. I'm out of here.
Adios.
And just want to give a quick shout out to we have Victor here, we have Akawa, we have Ed as well. So like always, appreciate the support here. Neil and I obviously talk a lot about tech space. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to let us know. And if not, Neil and I will just babble on with whatever we have in our minds right now.
Yeah, I mean, just because the title says Nvidia and there's Jensen on the thumbnail doesn't mean you cannot ask us about anything else. Free for all in this episode. But yeah, what has happened this week? A lot has happened this week, right? GTC, lots of announcements. So anything specific you wanna touch on to the start?
Let's see. First, we have here kind of questions of, I guess, with the title, with Shocking How today. For those that are not familiar, we're not going to be streaming it, but in later today, there's gonna be a quantum computing keynote by Nvidia during GTC, and it's gonna be Jensen. I think Jensen only does a few, usually one or two keynotes during GTC. The first is obviously the main keynote that we saw. The second is the Q&A financial analyst that we heard about yesterday. And normally it's just those two, but this year he's doing an extra one, and it's going to be kind of the quantum computing keynote today. So I wonder what kind of drama we're going to get out of it.
I mean, he probably did it because he owes them a couple of percent in their stock price from the last time he talked about quantum. And yesterday, during the interview with Jim Cramer, he's like, I'm not going to make any predictions anymore. When Jim Cramer asked him about 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I was like, I'm not going to say anything anymore. Was pretty funny.
Yeah, some interesting. I haven't watched that one, Neil. How can I call myself an Nvidia investor? I haven't seen that. I still haven't finished the Q&A session either. It's actually, yes, I did finish it last night. But I think that's what I'm going to do next is some of the interviews that he might have done in the past few days. Just because I believe it has a lot of great insight of just the um what goes through this guy's mind, and I think that's crucial to see where the company is heading.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that interview and I only have one share, so shame on you, shame on you. So one person here said something. I should buy one Nvidia stock every time I make an Nvidia joke. I would have been like a massive holder of Nvidia shares by now if that was the case.
So, I mean, with GTC, right, we did the live stream here, Neil, and um, I think there were three things that really got me excited overall, and I'm just going to do a quick. First is the CPO, which is the co-packaged optics, and kind of their networking solution. So one of the biggest bottlenecks that NVIDIA sees in data center infrastructure is just its power capacity, power constraint, right? So NVIDIA being kind of a full infrastructure player in this space now, they found ways to even more reduce the energy of other components. We kind of saw those transceivers, and during the keynote, he kind of mentioned that for every GPU, you have about 6 of these, which equal to about 180 watts. Now, if you build it up to a million clusters, that's about extra megawatts to some amount and a few millions of dollars as well. So if we're able to eliminate portions of this, we can reduce the power capacity that is used on this AI infrastructure. And now a company has the ability to put more and more AI GPUs into their thing. So I think that one is getting slept on a lot. And I think it was super massive for the stock, especially for the future potential. The other thing was we talked about it again, Neil. What was it? The Dynamo. It's just showcasing the software innovation within NVIDIA. And I think that orchestration of GPUs is also pretty crucial. And finally, he talked about it more in the Q&A analyst event, Neil, but AI factories. He mentions that no one's projection in forms of data center capex has AI factories in it. And the reason being is AI factories is this whole new form of AI infrastructure. Just how about 10, not 10, maybe not even 15 years ago, data centers weren't a thing. So it's always weird to think about some form of new infrastructure. But about 15 years ago, if you said a data center, people would be like, what the freak is a data center? Why do we need a freaking data center? And now he sees this world that we're still gonna obviously have data centers, but there's going to be another form of AI infrastructure, and that's going to be called AI factories. And in forms of this capital expenditure that is showing in a lot of the markets, that's not projected because it's not a thing just yet. And NVIDIA is building that thing. So those are the three things that got me pretty excited from GTC.
Yeah, I mean, during that Q&A, he also shared some interesting I mean, quick math, right? 1 gigawatt equals 40, $50 billion. So when we hear someone build out for 5 gigawatts, you can do the math. That's between 200 and $250 billion. That just goes to show you how big these numbers are, right? Previously, you only hear like 1 gigawatt, 2, 3. You don't really know what that really means in dollar terms. And he just basically said, look, this is what it is. It's 250 billion dollars if you go and build out a 5 gigawatt one, which was pretty crazy to hear. And then yeah, on the AI factories, he basically, and yeah, during the event he talked about data center capex, right? The worldwide data center capex that would be above $1 trillion by 2028, according to one specific projection, of course. And then you went to say, like you said, AI factories is not taken into consideration. And then from what I understood, it's going to be much bigger than that because he was talking about a Walmart, a Tesla, an Amazon. Every one of those have factories, but they'll have, or some of them already have today, an AI factory next to it. Right? Then Jim Cramer asked him during their interview about, okay, humanoid robots. Will they have a huge chip inside the robot? So he's like, no, this is the chip, which is this was the biggest chip that they have. but that's about it. All the rest gets done in the AI factory, and that's why you need it. You need AI factories for humanoid robots. You will need it for autonomous vehicles. You will need it for drones, for everything else. He talks about retail stores and all of that. So it really is like we've seen previously digital twins, but now we're going to see not only a digital twin, but just a twin factory purely focused on AI, on token generation, and that's probably where the huge increase we've seen already, a huge increase, but just going to be an extra level in the coming years.
Sure. So we have this question or topic from Rard. Digital twins have been around for 15 years. So yeah, so first, I don't know if I said digital twins in my thing. Neil, I meant AI factories. AI factories is what Nvidia is inventing. Now, digital twins, though, while we have kind of had them for various years now, it is a whole different change with artificial intelligence. Right? I feel like digital twins back then were just more of a means of creating something and being able to try to move things around. But now, as AI moves on further, this digital data actually has the ability to give us some form of results. So you can kind of even project, you can use AI, the data that you have with your supply chain, to see what actual effects and see it in real time. I think that's the main concept is you're really creating this true digital world that has all your data incorporated in it. And it's not just a 3D model. So I think if I might be, I might be misunderstanding right here, but in the old digital twins was more of just like a 3D model. It's more of just understanding kind of this landscape. And obviously you can do some analysis, some engineering analysis. You can see some data analysis, and supply chain engineers can also do an analysis on how moving certain things would affect the business, right? But now with artificial intelligence, a lot of that will completely change and be more automated, where you get something um, more highly probability of the truth. Hey, if I move this a model amount at the end of the calculations, you'll be able to see exactly what your end results could be, how it can increase or improve your bottom line. And that's something that digital twins hasn't really been able to do so quickly as kind of the digital twins that were Nvidia and some of these other players are talking about.
Yeah, plus, I mean, yeah, digital twins, companies like Autodesk and all of that have been doing it for a long time. But what we're saying with AI factories is that you have a physical, let's say, humanoid robot or an autonomous vehicle in real life, while in the AI factory you have that same robot in that AI factory, of course, a digital one. Whatever he needs, inferencing, token generation, all of that happens in real time at the same time. So if you have an autonomous vehicle driving, see a tree, you see a dog, all of that happens in real time in the digital, but also then translating into the real world. And that's the next big step.
So Neil, actually, the AI factories, if I may just break it down a little bit further, the AI factories is just meant to do one thing. It's just supposed to be like it's just to be a GPU farm, pretty much. It's just to be massive GPUs. And the whole concept is large language models right now, when you kind of tell them to do something, they generate a token. So in the future, what these AI factories are going to do, and this is to maybe some of the people that might not be familiar with it, is eventually, Neil, we're going to have everything running on AI. That's the story NVIDIA is telling us. That's right. That's the story NVIDIA is telling. And eventually, AI is going to be running in everything we do, from medical devices to our smart home, to our smart cars, to our robotics industry. So when they need to send that inferencing out, it goes to these AI factories. And these AI factories will be working 24/7. Jensen mentions it just like an electric factory, a company that manufactures or creates energy, right? You don't see that energy in real life, and you're like, oh, that's a manufacturing facility, but you're manufacturing power to power everything. Now you're manufacturing data tokens that are used to power your AI solutions everywhere else. So then outside of these AI factories, you will be able to run all these kind of simulations that you have, but they will be pulling that data from these AI factories.
So, quick question, right? Nvidia is now still $118. Of course, it was a bit lower. What what is the market waiting for? Like what's going to be the catalyst, short-term catalyst, I'd say, for the market in order for Nvidia to go back to all-time highs?
Um, I wish I knew, Neil. I would say I think right now the market is fixated, like Jensen mentioned, on capital expenditure from data centers, from the big four. Um, Jensen mentions that it's happening already, but that's obviously the big four are important, but they're not going to be that important in the future. So once we really start to see maybe, hey, look, we're still growing at heavy revenue, but let me tell you, cloud service providers are now only 44% of our total revenue. The next cycle, you still see revenue growth, but you say cloud service providers are only 39% of our total revenue. I think that's what the market would love to see. And I think that can, things like that, where it's no longer dependent on just the big four for revenue growth. Then you start to see the market saying, you know what, maybe this is just getting started.
Okay, no, good point. I mean, just based on the comments and all the presentations, you would think that this is going to happen, right? Because to reach that huge capex number and Nvidia's own, let's say sort of internal projections, you would think that it would be coming from just not just the top four CSPs. Whenever that will happen remains to be seen, but I find it very hard to believe that it's the concentration is only going to stay the same.
And I mean, honestly, this is one of those stories that you really have to believe AI to be real, right? I think that's the core concept of Nvidia right now, and obviously Jensen is super bullish. Um, in the AI space, and that is his company. So he is going to be bullish, no matter. He's always going to say what's bullish within the industry. Um, but I think investing in Nvidia, you have to completely believe that within the next 5 to 10 years, and even now, you're going to continue to see heavy innovations in AI space. And if that doesn't happen, then Nvidia stock, while it being my biggest shareholder position, I can definitely see it dropping dramatically if AI doesn't um, produce the type of solutions I believe it can.
What are the probabilities of that happening?
I think it at the moment right now, Neil. I think that probability changes throughout the months as you kind of see innovations. I think right now it's pretty high, and the way I kind of get, I kind of base my risk to reward is just the innovations we're seeing in all AI space, like OpenAI, almost on a monthly basis is releasing some new project, or every other week is releasing like something minor that no one's catching on to. So that's the first thing. And then just watching various others. I mean, Grok just released probably like, about a month ago. So it's just showcasing the innovation, and autonomous vehicles are improving. I see my FSD improving over time. So innovation and software updates are happening a lot more than normal. So that's what I'd like to see, right? That innovation in that startups making up new things, new AI companies creating some form of new AI agentic solution. I feel, to me, Neil, the moment I start to hear less and less about this, that's when I feel my probability is starting to go lower and lower.
Okay, no, fair enough. I mean, you're using ChatGPT, right? You're paying for the subscription. Has there been anything that really like blew your mind since you started using it?
I I mean, the deep research is insane. It takes about a few minutes, but I can learn a lot about the semiconductor markets, certain parts that I'm not too familiar with, and it gives. I think the deep research is great. Outside of OpenAI, their operator has, I don't use it as much, but it is definitely one that I can see improving over the next few quarters. And I think that can be massive. It's kind of like the first early steps of AI agentic to the consumer world, where there are ways you can probably code some form of agentic solutions already, but it's very limited to having to be kind of a true software pro. Um, I think right now, operator is kind of like that consumer way of it, and we're going to see others around the same thing. Lately, I've actually been enjoying Perplexity too, Neil. I think Perplexity, they have a deep research as well, and they do have reasoning as well. And lately, Perplexity has taken a lot. It's weird. I've used it before, but lately has been taking a lot more of my one search usage, and also more of my AI usage as well.
Is there any particular reason why that has changed? Like something drastically in the service or in the search results?
So recently, I do think perplexity with the this DeepSeek model, or even O1 or O1 or O3, the reasoning model, the time of thinking model, right? That model where it's no longer just a one shot, completely changes the game for search. Where now it's like if you're asking a question, okay, I'm gonna do my one shot, but then it looks through my hit responses and be like, is this really what the user asked for? And it keeps on searching and searching and searching and keeps on thinking. So now the results of search, I think, have improved dramatically with things like deep thinking or kind of thinking reasoning models. So the innovation of O1, O3, or DeepSeek R1 have, in my opinion, made perplexity a whole different monster in the past month or so.
Okay, this leads me to the next question. You're saying this, but at the same time, you're very bullish on Alphabet Google, right? Do you
Yeah. So I
feel?
mean, I, I I don't. Google also has these forms of AI solutions. I think with Google, Neil, they're gonna end up being the winner. But unfortunately, when you have such a massive user base, you don't have the ability to turn the ship around and super quickly. You don't have the ability um, to be able to turn on a beta feature pretty quickly, because you might keep one or two of your customers pretty happy, but the other 98% of your customers are going to be like, yo, it actually sucks. What the heck is this? And that's the kind of bad thing about being a big player. You have to wait till it's perfect for the mass usage. It doesn't mean that they're going to lose out in the long term of things. In the short term of things, I believe like small players have a little bit of an edge to provide that solution to the consumer. So it's not necessarily too much of a bearish thought for Google or any search engine in the long term. I think eventually they'll be able to do it just because they're a big player. The startups are just able to do it a lot faster without really having to worry about their customer base, right? Because their customer base are the ones that really, really want these features.
Okay, no, fair enough. Fair enough. I can see the logic behind it. I think at the end of the day, it's all going to be whoever makes it the best, most personalized service out there. Not one where you always have to repeat yourself again and again. I think memory, like we've said, is going to be a huge, huge topic of 2025 with all of those players. So when you log on, whatever on your phone or use it on your PC, it remembers who you are, what you said before. Basically becomes an AI agent, the one that everybody's been talking about. And yeah, Google, being Google, having the reach, the distribution that they have, shouldn't really be an issue for them. But of course, like you said, they're the biggest ones. So if they make a mistake, as we've seen in the past, it's going to be a costly mistake for them.
And I want to kind of bring this, Sunar. He mentions, I disagree with Jose. I think NVIDIA's future has less to do with LLM and more to do with the actual use cases in real life. LLM is just what most people see, but what we need is use real cases. Yeah, so I don't think, Neil, I mentioned that I think LLM is the crucial part. It's more the real use cases where we're going to be able to use AI on a daily basis. So if you have, for example, a robotic solution, that robotics needs to be able to inference and kind of do whatever type of thinking. And right now, that thinking is through LLM and through some form of model. Is always going to be some form of model, via being a video model, being a text model, whatever. So as long as AI continues to innovate, and I guess, Sumar, maybe where I might have misspoke is right now the current innovations are happening in large language models. So that's the easiest low hanging fruit that I can see innovation taking place. And that's why I mentioned, like, I see FSD. But overall, over time, as things innovate, it's no longer going to be just on large language models. It's going to be on companies, the innovation happening within the instruments of medical space, within the instruments of whatever. But right now, where we're at in the market, the easiest way to see the innovation of AI is through these large language models. 6 months from now, that has to change, and it has to be whatever next form of era. So I agree with you, Sumar, where we have to see more real life cases, and the only way we can see that is for AI to continue to innovate. But there's plenty of places where we're going to see it. Robotics, I mean, the supply chain industry, that's something that agentic will use. And agentic AI is pretty much large language models, right? So that's pretty much that's still focusing on large language models. And you mentioned here real life scenarios are things like supply chain and agentic. That has to do all pretty much with large language models, because all that has to understand math, text, and the list goes on and on. So I think maybe the concept of LLM is tricky, but I think we go to the same direction where AI needs to innovate for real life cases.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what they talked about when they talk about physical AI, right? Physical AI, the Cosmos platform, talking about manufacturing robotics. So yeah, it's cool, right? At the start, it's cool, image generation, text to video, etc., etc. But of course, at the end of the day, you're not investing hundreds of billions of dollars to generate a silly image. You want to see real life cases, cases that will increase economic growth, GDP growth, and all of that. So I agree on that front. Um, I do want to ask or discuss. We have a big earnings report. I think later today we have Micron reporting after hours. There has been some positive comments from some analysts. We know revenue wise it's not going to be the best quarter. $7.9 billion in revenue was $1 billion miss. But after what we've seen from Nvidia during GTC, the Rubin, the Feynman one, all of them are using more and more HBM, right? It's going to come from Micron or SK Hynix, probably not from Samsung anymore. That should be a huge win for a company like a Micron, right?
Yeah, Neil, I think and I think after the GTC event on X, you see Micron actually posted a lot of different solutions where their memory has been used. I think it might be in some of those workstations that Nvidia announced during the keynote, where we kind of had the sh- um, the freeze on the stream. But I'm hopeful. I believe there's huge growth opportunity for Micron right now. That AI market, in my opinion, is going to continue to grow. And at one point, Neil, I'm not going to lie, there was a DeepSeek report that talked a little bit about kind of the reduction of memory a little bit, and that created a little bit of uncertainty for me. But we see from GTC this past thing that memory capacity is still insane. It's still pretty strong, and you're still going to grow that. So I think the AI market is still going to be amazing for Micron. I think my biggest worry for this earnings, Neil. So I think long term strong potential. I think for my worry in forms of the stock price for today, is the consumer market might still be a little bit weaker than previously expected. Um, we've heard obviously with maybe some of the Fed data yesterday, you might kind of see kind of slowdown in GDP growth. Things like that can impact saying that maybe consumers are just going to be spending a little bit less overall, things like that. So I think in the short term, the market might care a little bit too much about the consumer tech, which is a big portion of Micron's technology. Regardless if we see a price dump, as long as that AI, large language, not AI, HBM, high bandwidth memory is intact, I think there's a great opportunity for Micron.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I think there still is a bit of PC and smartphone weakness right now, and I think that's expected. But since HBM is playing such a big part in Micron's future valuation, value as a company, I think that's the focus of Wall Street at the moment. Although PC, smartphones, that could still negatively impact the business. I think HBM growth, which we both agree would still be quite good, is going to be the focus. Of course, pricing wise, things for 2025, pricing for 2025, I think we're already locked in. So all of the reports that we've been seeing where pricing is already increasing could impact the company's guidance for the future. And I think that that's going to be a focus point in the earnings call tonight.
I agree. So if tonight we see the stock price drop and it's mainly just because of um, consumer still not turning around, I think and AI is still AI still we see the opportunity. We definitely see it have ahead. If there's been no change there, if Micron doesn't say, oh, look, we actually saw a mistake in one of our HBM capacity or something like that, as long as there's nothing related to the HBM market and the only sour taste is short term consumer tech, I think that would be, if stock goes down, I think that would be an opportunity for investors.
Agreed. Let's see. I'm actually surprised that you saw the Fed results yesterday. Usually you're not in the macro side of things.
I ended up using Perplexity. I had a something this morning, Neil, so I had to look at. So Perplexity helped me out like 5 minutes before. Um, Neil, and when you break, I want to, Russell here mentions that, hey, Russell, he is a researchers, LLMs are awful. They actually take their own research as a fact. But there are great research AI apps that help you ask questions you didn't think of. So I think that's the thing about LLMs right now. In terms of AI apps is at the moment, though, Neil, they're pretty much meant for a general approach. And I can definitely see why a researcher, and then maybe putting in the data from your research, which is still not a fact, is still in the research process, the LLM might kind of consider that as a fact because it doesn't really know unless you, I guess, prompt it better to understand that whatever data you're feeding should not be taken as a fact. But I think with things like that, you're going to see maybe more niche applications that are meant for researcher solutions. And we can see here, he mentions that there are great research AI apps that help you ask questions you didn't think about. So I know I mentioned something like AI research right now. Those are usually more on like core technologies that have already come out. I personally never used it to kind of create a new form of semiconductor component or stuff like that. But it's more of AI research, a research paper to understand maybe how the difference between HBM and DRAM come into place and stuff like that. Just things like that where there are actual facts of it already in place.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's also how Nvidia created such great products. I mean, he basically said it. It's thanks to AI that they were able to create these types of complex racks that they've shown us during the event. So with already, I mean, with already existing data, even with that, sometimes LLMs can hallucinate, and I think that's still the case today. Hallucinations are an issue. So yeah, don't take their word for it, the LLM's word for it, every time they say something, because they're pretty persuasive even when they're very very wrong. Like, oh, this is a fact. No, actually, today is Friday. Actually, today is Thursday. It's like, oh, apologies for this mistake. I am still in early stage. I'm like, okay, um, but eventually that will stop. Although we humans also make mistakes, so I guess there's that.
Sunair also imagine this MU is 29 PE and 13 forward PE. I would just say with the memory players, it's also very careful to really focus on forward PE ratios because sometimes, I mean, it's all about the cycle, and that's what's super important. There are times when Micron can trade at a PE ratio of single digits, but the stock price can continue to go down as we might be over in the cycle. So I would say don't just plainly look at PE ratios. It's more important to understand the PE ratio gives us a great indication of valuations, but it's great to understand where we are in those cycles. Because there's sometimes, Neil, where I see people wanting to get into Micron because it's all a forward PE at a PE ratio of 8, but they don't understand that we're getting close to that top cycle. And then when we start to see the cycle turn over, you start to see those PE ratios start to go back into the hundreds. So just careful with just looking at PE ratios.
Yeah, I mean, not just for Micron, of course, for everything. Because if, for example, also a company that reports later today, Nike a year ago, its forward PE was lower than today, yet the stock is lower today than it was a year ago. So just just so we're clear, a PE, that's the thing, right? Everybody's always talking about, oh, this stock is expensive, it has a PE of whatever, or this stock has a PE of whatever. A PE is just a metric that you can use to see what the market thinks or what's going on. It's not really telling you the full picture of a business.
And I just yeah, and I feel like in certain tech spaces and just certain cyclical spaces right now, it's a little bit weirder too. Like AMD, for example, just a few months ago, I don't know what it's trading now. It's probably trading in the hundreds of PE ratios. And Nvidia at one point in the bottom of the cycle was trading at some crazy hundreds of PE ratios as well. And now you kind of see the opposite. The hard question, right, Sunar, is going to be where when does the cycle shift? And that's the hard part, right? I think that's the hard part of semiconductor investing. Um, and I don't know, maybe we can finally see when the cycle shifts and be able to jump ship before that happens.
I mean, with memory players now, let's say Micron, because the rest, Samsung, I don't think it's easy to access those shares. SK Hynix, think about the same story. So let's take just Micron. I mean, the peak, the top of the cycle, I think we still have time because now we have to add the HBM component to this story. So that's going to take a while. And to know when the cycle ends, it's probably you have to go to what Nvidia is telling you. You have to go listen to what TSMC is telling you. You have to go to what the hyperscalers are telling you, and then maybe say, oh, okay, I think we're nearing the top. And even being near the top is good enough because you don't want to wait until maybe the top is reached and then you're missing that opportunity. Then again, we've seen with past cycles, the top always get higher and higher and higher over time. So yeah, when we're going to the down cycle, of course, it's not great. But remember, if you zoom out, you look at the business, the up cycle is always higher than the previous one. So
Very true, Neil. And that's why, yeah, as a long-term investor, you have that strength where it doesn't even matter if you kind of just bought the top cycle, especially for memory or any or just not AI chip innovation. Um, we're gonna I believe I don't think it's crazy to believe that in the next 10 years the types of tech that I use are going to need more memory, are going to need more computational power. I'm going to have a lot more tech devices in my house than I do today. um, uh, Unless we go into this world where we only need one tech product and that's the only thing that we need in our life, now that's a whole different story. But unless something like that doesn't happen, you have robotics, drones, smart cars, the list goes on and on. So even if getting in the top of the cycle, sure, it might suck. But like you mentioned, historically, if you wait long enough in these industries and that company continues to be an innovative player, you'll be fine in the future. And first I want to say it seems like I don't know, we're becoming best friends or something because someone mentions that our team ability is we're becoming a better team now. Here we go. We can see from Digo, you guys are becoming a better team overall.
we are becoming one with the AI. I mean, 20 episodes in, I hope we get better. Imagine if we got worse. Let's
Let's
see.
see, Neil. Any question um, that we can take a closer look at? Ed was wondering if we talked about Micron already. We did, Neil. I don't know if you want to just give like a quick 1 minute, 2 minute spiel of maybe what our thoughts were before earnings.
Yeah. So me personally, I own Micron. Jose does not, but he's still bullish on Micron, the memory space as a whole. For the quarter, don't expect something incredible for the quarter because guidance was already quite weak. Might still be some weakness in the PC and smartphone market, but probably still a strong HBM part of the business. And that's probably where the focus is going to be, especially on guidance. So for tonight, if the stock drops, but the business is still doing well, great. If the stock goes up, even better.
Yep, agree. As long as that HBM and AI thesis is intact, which I believe is still intact, a stock price drop, I do believe will be an opportunity. So short term, obviously, it can go any direction right now. Long term, that thesis, data from GTC, data from other events say the data is still good for HBM growth, which is going to be very bullish for Micron in long term.
Yeah, plus manufacturing in the United States, we're probably going to get some information about that as well. Let's see. I think
Uh, oh, sorry, Neil, I
no,
took a quick
go
one.
ahead.
This was
No,
not
no, go
even
ahead.
so Greg, air could surge if Nvidia selects them for testing all this new silicon photonics co-package due to Air's unique wafer level testing of this. True, Greg. True. That's actually, I don't know why I forgot about that. I think in the next few days, one video topic I did there, I think maybe we both could do in general is X stocks that could boost with kind of like this GTC's announcement. And I mean, obviously Micron is definitely one of those players. So for me, I would definitely put Air. I would do a little bit more research on Air with the testing that they do, and if it could incorporate with the CPO that Nvidia announced. But that could definitely be a player there.
I mean, you can take that idea and maybe people might start to get excited again, because in this down cycle people got a bit less excited, which is quite strange, but we've been through worse. Um, quick question here by Pauzilla. It's a pretty cool picture, by the way. Are you guys both invested in Rocket Lab and bullish? So I think I have a position in Rocket Lab. So yeah, obviously I am bullish. Otherwise, I would not hold Rocket Lab shares in my portfolio. So yeah, other than that, big focus on Neutron for this year, the launch of that. If it's delayed, not great. If it's not delayed, that's pretty good. So yeah, nothing more to add. Very bullish on the long term future of that company.
Yeah, and I don't own it. I've learned a little bit about it, and it's I see the excitement for it. Um, I don't know. This when Neil was talking about it, it was in the low digits, and now it's in the double digits. So I don't know. Sometimes that I get that price bias when it's a stock like that, Neil, and it makes me like, maybe I'll research it when if the stock goes down a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it did go up quite a lot. I mean, it went, I think, to 30, 31, and then it went back down to 16 last 2-3 weeks or so. So basically slashed in half, like many stocks. Um, but yeah, market cap wise is still small compared to what it can be in the future if successful, of course.
Neil, I know last time we kind of talked a little bit, or you talked a little bit about the Wiz acquisition um, from Google. Was that you, Neil? Am I imagining? Okay. Any thoughts here for Matthew here?
Um, I mean, I liked it last year at $23 billion. So $32 billion. Congrats to the to the employees and the founders for getting an extra $9 billion. It makes sense. I mean, Google Sundar, they wrote a full blog post explaining why they're doing it, why it makes sense. I mean, if you look at the Microsoft, for example, Microsoft is today already one of the biggest cybersecurity names in the world, and nobody even talks about them being a cybersecurity name. So, in this cloud space, especially, you will need a cybersecurity play. So it makes sense for Google. Did they overpay? Maybe yes. It's definitely not a cheap acquisition. But if you look at the potential of all of these cloud providers, I mean, if you look at the size of AWS, the $100 billion plus a run rate. If you look at Azure, also growing extremely quickly, then it could definitely make sense. Plus, there was also this cross cloud usage, I think, that could be enabled thanks to Wiz without compromising anything. So I think that will become also a very, very crucial component. Maybe I'm misspeaking a couple of terms here, but I think they mentioned something about that. So yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's not a cheap one. It makes sense. Now, $32 billion. If you look at the projected number for ARR for 2025, I believe it's around $1 billion. Then you could say, okay, let's look at other cybersecurity players, the CrowdStrikes, maybe even SentinelOne, and is something mispriced here? Yes or no? Everybody can have their own opinion on that, where the market is mispricing another company based on market cap, based on how much someone's willing to pay. Just know that when a company acquires another company that is growing extremely rapidly, I mean, Wiz is growing like crazy, you're always going to pay a premium because it's not in the public sector, it's in the private one. So you're always going to pay a premium. Um, but it makes sense. They have the cash, so it's an all cash acquisition. It makes sense. So yeah, I I do not hate it. Not hate it at all.
Yeah, and we do have some comments here, Neil, from Jonathan. So Jonathan mentioned first he worked at Microsoft, and he says that yes, it's a great company. And I agree with you, Neil. I mean, first, I think cybersecurity in general has its own massive growth opportunities. And I agree with here, Jonathan, where he mentions it's more like a hybrid cloud approach for Google. Just like I don't know, the easiest way for me to think about it with my semiconductor brain, Neil, is semiconductor companies. They used to be a chip player only. Then from a chip player, they became a software player and then kind of like a hybrids player. Kind of the cloud market, I feel it the same way, right? Just like anything, you want to be a complete tool set. Like you mentioned, Microsoft has Azure, and then it has various solutions to incorporate or integrate into its clouding solution to make it a stickier, maybe a stickier place to stay where it reduces the friction of shifting over. And I guess this is what Jonathan might be approaching. It's the hybrid cloud is important for Alphabet's strategy with Wiz as a differentiator while providing its services for other cloud providers as well. So yeah, I mean, I think this acquisition doesn't give any extra growth opportunities for the cybersecurity space. I think the cybersecurity is already good for its own way. I think this is just Google saying, hey, look, I want to be a little bit more, provide more tools within my tool set and have a little bit more integration within it.
Yeah, I'm currently looking at the blog post that they made just to find out if I made a mistake or not. So yeah, they did say that Wiz products will continue to work and be available across all major clouds, including AWS, Azure, and Oracle cloud platforms, and will be offered to customers through an array of partner security solutions. So I guess that's definitely one way for Alphabet to keep growing with the whole ecosystem.
Neil, we have here a question from Ernest. Hello, for stocks like MU, how do you identify high of the cycle? Do you have a target price for selling MU? I don't, Ernest. When I was thinking of high of the cycle, it's not necessarily a stock price. It's more of just how so I don't know where stock prices could go. It's more of just understanding if this is the peak of revenue. And usually the peak of revenue happens when customers have over ordered in the type of products that they need. From what we're seeing right now, that's not the case with AI accelerators. And luckily, Neil, the great thing is the consumer market still hasn't even started ordering, right? The consumer market it's been in the bottom. It's still in the overcorrection in certain spaces. So two things can happen. The first thing is, or AI cycles can continue, AI demand can continue to grow and consumer comes with it at the same time, then you have some massive explosion in revenue. The other thing that could happen is for some reason there might be an AI cycle slowdown, but consumer picks up at that same time, and you kind of have an easement in kind of like maybe not a complete drop, but more of like a flat line through some time. So it's in semiconductor companies, the cycles get a little bit harder to understand for various reasons that now there's multiple markets within it, and each market has a different cycle within itself. Um, the automotive market is completely different from the consumer tech, which is completely different from industrial spending, which is completely different from AI spending. So all those can at one time be the perfect storm, or other times they could be like a stepping level, which help kind of make the cycle not seem so cyclic-ish.
Plus, if you listen to every great investor, they'll tell you to usually take profits or sell when margins have peaked or are peaking, earnings are peaking, and buy when margins are compressed and earnings are thrown out of the window. Of course, you can never time the top or the bottom, but you can get a signal when things is starting to turn on the downside or the upside. So this might be actually a topic for a whole other live stream, but we can continue with that right now. About timing a stock, 'cause we've been talking about growth stocks, and we always say the same thing, right? We don't care about a dollar here, a dollar there. It doesn't really matter. We're not really waiting for, oh, it's in the stage 3, stage 4, stage 5 recovery, whatever that means. Um, we're fine paying like $5 extra, $10 extra for a good business because we like the price today, right? An Nvidia, for example, or an AMD was at 105, then 100, then 96. I was fine paying 105, $100, $96 because the upside is much more than the extra dollars that it can go down. The value that I'm getting today, I'm fine with that. I'm also fine with the fact that, oh, I'm seeing that margins, earnings, and all of that have already started to recover. We're nowhere near peak margins, peak earnings, on all of that for a company like AMD, or I mean, we can talk about plenty of other companies here. So the timing of it here, we're talking about Micron again, high of the cycle, down of the cycle. You can identify that if you follow a business. Like if you follow candles on a chart, probably not. If you follow the business, I think you can identify when we're close to a height of the cycle, or we're close to a low of the cycle.
Uh, Definitely, Neil. Let's see. Any questions here you wanna grab, Neil?
Lots of people talking about football here suddenly. I mean, much better than the other chat we had a day or two ago about political stuff. So keep talking about sports.
Um,
I didn't know we had football games today, but I didn't even know we were Thursday today, other than the fact that we had this live stream. So at least that's a good reminder. Um, let's see. We had a
Neil, I know
couple.
you've done a lot more research on this one, especially over time. I think I might have asked this question in the live stream, but Roshan wants to know any updates of Nebius after Nvidia's presentation, or pretty much still the same from your previous thoughts.
Yeah, so still the same. Still the same. I think it even reinforces Nebius' case here, especially when Jensen said at one point you're going to be energy limited. And so the fact that Nebius can build out this infrastructure in a very, very efficient way, not just cost-wise, but energy-wise, means that they will be able to offer more favorable pricing. We also have seen that after the DeepSeek drama, this stock got completely destroyed. Like it went down 37% or so in one day. And again, it didn't make much sense. It will just make this company even more compelling because usage is going up. And just like with plenty of other companies, especially in the fintech, I know completely different industries, but take rate goes down. But a lot of times what we hear is that they're making it up through volume, through TPV growth. And the same thing here in this AI team, right? Cost of AI goes down, but usage of it goes up. And so you're making up the difference and then some, right? 100 times $1, 100 times $2, or 1,000 times $1. It costs 50% less, but you're making way, way more because of the volume difference. Now, with Nebius, of course, you have to believe that they can continue to execute the way that they've been executing up until now. You have to believe that they can expand as fast as possible. You have to believe that they can raise money in the future because, believe it or not, they're going to need to raise more money. Although they have zero debt and $2.4 billion in cash, building AI infrastructure, buying from Nvidia is not cheap, even though Nvidia is an investor in the company. It's not cheap. I said it from the start, and the CEO actually said it in an interview a week or so ago, that they will need to raise in the future if they want to continue to expand as quickly as they've been expanding. So still very bullish on the company. The fact that market cap wise, it's still quite small, all things considered, like $6-7 billion or so. In this industry, in that team, it could become a huge, huge player in the future if, of course, XYZ happens and they continue to operate the way they've been doing for the last couple of months, couple of quarters.
So Neil, Sir Robin has I put my issues aside with Russian history of Nebius and bought 100 shares last week. Again, I don't follow this stock too much, Neil,
Mm-hmm.
so I think I'm going to take this time to kind of pick your brain. From what my memory could be wrong, Was this part of like that Google of Russia, right?
Yeah. So Yandex. So it's basically the same teams, but the company had to divest completely from all of its Russian operations. They even had to rewrite all the code, all the software, um, to make sure that it's completely divested and the ties to Russia, although, of course, there are probably still some Russians working there. Um, but the HQ is in Amsterdam, and that's why it took them a while until they got relisted on the NASDAQ. So yeah, maybe if you really want to be like that hawk, then you can say, okay, but I don't trust them. I don't trust that they have completely been divested from Russia, etc. Okay, can't can't make a compelling argument. I trust all the bodies involved that they did everything they needed to do in order to make sure that they're completely disconnected. Whether or not that's sufficient for everyone, I don't know, but for me, it's good enough.
And Neil, with these data centers that they have right now, are where have they mentioned first? Have they mentioned the locations of it? Um, and second, do they have any notable customers to use those data centers that maybe I might know about, that can help me kind of ease that thought of any Russian influence? So any big names. And thirdly, no, I think those are probably the first two questions. So have they sort of the locations, and if they have any big customers, or is it more internal use cases?
Yeah, no. So the locations are known. The one that they are growing, I think, the new ones are in Kansas. I think there is one in Jersey actually. There is one in Finland or in yeah, I think there's one in Finland in cold areas. So it's pretty good when it comes to energy and heat and all of that. And they're building out some more, I think, in France, but Kansas and New Jersey, I think that was the newest announcement. Let me make sure that I do not say some BS
Yeah,
here.
it is. Nebius accelerates US expansion, adding up to 300 megawatt capacity at a new data center in New Jersey. I'm gonna have to go drive and see where this is at.
Yeah, so it's in New Jersey, but they're adding to an existing facility in Kansas City and a new site in Iceland as well. Um, and let's see, yeah, and there is one already. There was one already in Finland, and it's a pretty good and big one and important one as well because it's very energy efficient, and that's basically their whole focus is making sure that everything that you're building out is extremely energy efficient because well you want to be able to offer these services at well the lowest cost possible, and they're working with every big name that you can think of, like the Amazons, the Microsofts, and all of that. So um, the big players basically. I'm not just saying this, I think the CEO said it in the interview last week.
Thank you for that, Neil. And I think we have maybe time for about one or two questions. Anything you want to take before we head out?
Let's see. Got here a very nice comment from Jonathan. Neil has good memory. Hats off to him. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's one of my best and worst traits because sometimes I remember things that should not remember.
If you're trying to go to sleep, you remember the math problem you had to do 10 years ago. You're like,
Yeah, I go to my friends. I'm like, you remember what you said when we were 6 years old?
boom.
Let's see what we have. It's been a while actually. Yeah, it's been a while since we've heard anything about SMCI since that whole drama delisting period. Um, but it does seem like Jensen puts a lot more focus on Dell, right? Since last year, yet again in this event, got a nice couple of shout outs to Dell. So SMCI. Let's see actually where that thing is trading these days. Yeah, 38.5, so lower than before the delisting risk, which is quite something. I think. I mean, we both talked a lot about these players, important for the whole ecosystem. We're not really that bullish on the stock because competition, very low margins. So yeah, not really something that we will add to our portfolio, I think.
I think especially as Nvidia continues to make more designs in the infrastructure play, where they help a lot with the design process for a lot of these players. Because at the end of the day, Nvidia wants all these players to do well. So they're going to give them as much assets via monetary research to make sure they are building the best servers ever, to continue to expand their manufacturing capabilities for liquid cooling and whatsoever. So Nvidia is gonna make sure that any of these players survive, which makes it an extremely competitive space for all of them. So for those reasons, right now, I think we can agree that not something we would personally add.
Yeah, I think this is a good last question for now, and maybe a follow for the next episode. So Matthew here asks, Jose, it seems like you are heavy semiconductor in your portfolio. What made you think that he is heavy in semiconductors? Which other industry are you bullish on and or invested in?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a lot of big tech right now. So I'm invested a lot in semiconductors, but I do have kind of like your Microsofts, your Googles, your Metas in my overall portfolio, which also make up a good chunk. Tesla, um, CrowdStrike, cybersecurity. I think the main reason is I see AI and semiconductors being the top level approach to understanding where everything's going to go from here, right? So I see AI market growing. That tells me that cloud infrastructure is going to grow, and it makes me bullish in the cloud tech players. Then from there on, I get to see the software players that get to innovate with this space. So I enjoy, and it's weird, right? Now I do daily Nvidia episodes, and many people will be like, "Hey, you just care about the Nvidia stock price on a daily basis," but that's not the reason I do it. The reason I do it is Nvidia, there's news about AI innovating in on a daily basis, and I'd love to see what other industries are taking that approach. Because it's what really got me excited about Oracle in early 2024, where the stock was below $100. Is I see the innovation approach that Oracle is taking. NVIDIA daily videos and kind of the semiconductor talks is where I think it's the top level portion.
I don't know who's frozen, if it's me or if it's Jose, but someone's frozen here. Someone's frozen. It isn't me.
I think it was me. Was it me?
Ah, yeah, it was you.
It wasn't me. I don't know what's the last thing I said, but yeah. So a lot of big tech. I like tech in general.
Okay, now fair enough. I think with that, we can close it out. So thank you all for joining. Really appreciate that. Yes, there is the Nations League tonight. Great. Such a boring competition. I've never seen that in my life. Useless football competition or soccer for you, which by the way, I'll be in the United States for the World Cup next year. So you can come visit. I'm coming to visit, but you can come visit in the stadium if you want. Um, but yeah, thank you all for joining, and yeah, we'll see you all Tuesday.